Hey guys, Sean here and welcome to the F1 Word. Now it has felt like an eternity since F1 last raced in China, but it's actually only been 5 years. However, 5 years is a long time in Formula One, so I thought just for fun and because I can, I'd go over just some of the things that have changed since the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix. There's been a lot, so just some. So first up, and unsurprisingly, there have been a lot of driver transfers over the last 5 years. At Shanghai in 2019, Valtteri Bottas was still at Mercedes and was enjoying a very strong start to the season, arriving in China at the top of the Drivers' Championship, a point clear of his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who would go on to win the race and top the standings at the end of the weekend and, of course, at the end of the season. Sebastian Vettel was still racing at Ferrari, but alongside new teammate Charles Leclerc, who was in his second F1 season, and Pierre Gasly was Max Verstappen's teammate at Red Bull, although we all know how that ended. McLaren were running Lando Norris, who was in his rookie season, and Carlos Sainz, as well as Renault engines, by the way. Daniel Ricciardo and Nico Hülkenberg were teammates at Renault, and that was the third race for the Aussie at the team following his shock decision to ditch Red Bull in favour of a move to Aston. A decision 5 years later many people are still questioning. Toro Rosso, as they were known then, a far better name by the way than RB, had Daniel Kvyat and Alex Albon driving for them. Albon, another one in his first F1 season. Racing Point, as they were imaginatively named back then, although still better than RB, were still a thing, and that's where Sergio Perez was racing. Alfa Romeo had Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi on board, and Romain Grosjean was still racing in F1 at the then Rich Energy Haas F1 team, the Rich Energy saga. And down at Williams was a young George Russell, not that he's old now, but he was in his first season, with Robert Kubica alongside him, the pole returning to the grid to much, rightly so, fanfare at the start of that season. So, Bottas now at Sauber, Gasly at Alpine, Sainz at Ferrari, Ricciardo at RB, Hülkenberg at Haas, Albon at Williams, Perez at Red Bull and Russell at Mercedes have all moved teams at least once since 2019, with Vettel, Kvyat, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Grosjean and Kubica all moving on from F1. Hamilton, for now, Leclerc, Verstappen, Norris, Stroll, Magnussen, albeit with a break, have all chosen to stay put. Esteban Ocon rejoining the grid in 2020, Fernando Alonso returning in 2021, and Zhou Guanyu, Oscar Piastri, Yuki Tsunoda and Logan Sargeant all join the F1 grid in the year since the sport's 1000th World Championship race. Yes, China 2019 was F1's 1000th World Championship race. Remember all that hype? It hasn't just been the drivers shuffling around over the last few years, though, with team bosses and team ownership also changing since that race in China. Mattia Binotto was the boss at Ferrari and remained in place until he resigned in December 2022 to be replaced by Fred Vasseur. Vasseur himself, of course, being in charge at Alfa Romeo back in 2019. Cyril Abiteboul, remember him, was still at Renault and at war with Christian Horner, not literally, obviously. Gunther Steiner was still the team boss at Haas and held that position until the end of 2023. Andreas Seidel, now working on Audi's F1 project, was about to start his new job as McLaren team boss. Otmar Safnauer was the boss at Racing Point. Franz Tost was still at Toro Rosso, another one who stayed in his post until the end of last year when he retired. And Claire Williams was still in charge at Williams, a position she held until the team was sold back in 2020. That all means only Christian Horner and Toto Wolff remain at the teams they were with at the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix. Horner now the longest serving team principal of the current bunch. On top of all of that, the Alfa Romeo name has disappeared with the team now called, insert sponsor here, F1 Team Sauber. Racing Point now carries the Aston Martin name. Williams, of course, have been sold to Doralton Capital. And although still owned by Renault, the Enstone team has taken on investment and on top of that is now known as Alpine. Just as expected, as the driver and team changes, the rules have undergone several tweaks and changes since we last saw cars on track in China. We've seen a ban on engine party modes, floor tweaks, and many more tweaks through technical directives and other means. We've also seen DAS come and go and change to the size of the wheels and the tyres. But the big and really the most noticeable changes at a glance came in 2022, when the sport underwent the biggest shake-up of aero regulations in its history with the move to ground effect cars. Teams also now have new financial regulations to follow, the cost cap if you will, as well as a new sliding scale that sets the amount of aerodynamic testing teams get, the champions are getting the least and the team in last place getting the most. All of which were designed to work together to close up the pack and give us close to racing on the circuit itself, something that has worked very well through the rest of the field, but clearly not at the front. Red Bull winning 41 of the 48 races since the big regulation changes fully kicked in. Not necessarily relevant to China 2019, but well worth a mention, I think. Sprints have become a thing since China 2019 and have been a rip-roaring success, at least that's what F1 tells us anyway. They've undergone many tweaks since their introduction in 2021, and the first sprint of the current season is, as it turns out, in China, which could cause a chaotic weekend. Very much looking forward to that. As well as a new format, we've also seen a fair few tracks permanently added to the calendar in the last 5 years, including races in Saudi Arabia, Miami, Qatar and Vegas, as well as returning to Imola and Zandvoort, of course, in 2020 and 2021. We also saw the likes of Turkey and Portugal host races to help fill the calendar during the pandemic, as did the Nürburgring and Mugello. F1 even raced around the outer loop in Bahrain, which gave Sergio Perez his first win, so that was fun. We have also lost tracks, though, with France, Germany and Russia falling off the calendar for very different reasons. Bring back Hockenheim. When the lights went out in Shanghai 5 years ago, Lewis Hamilton was still a 5-time world champion and would, of course, go on to win 2 more to become a 7-time world champion. Maths. Max Verstappen, though, had 0 titles to his name and has gone on to become a triple world champion, and many would argue looks set to make that 4 and 5 by the end of next season. This one caught me out. It is also worth mentioning that the Dutchman had just 5 wins and 0 pole positions under his belt. His first pole not coming to Hungary later that year, and he now has 57 wins and 36 poles to his name and is 3rd on the list of all-time race winners. Mercedes added more titles to the record books with Constructors' Championship success at the end of 2019, followed by titles in 2020 and 2021 to make it 8 in a row, a record-breaking 8 in a row. Red Bull have won the last 2 Constructors' titles and so now have 6 overall. Hamilton and Verstappen have also smashed a number of F1 records in that time too. Hamilton becoming the drivers to take the most wins with a total of 103, and since the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix, has gone on to be the first driver to hit and exceed 100 poles and 100 wins. Verstappen set the record for the most wins in a season twice with 15 in 2022, beating that in 2023 with a total of 19. That means he now has the highest percentage of wins in a season at 86.36%, as well as the most consecutive wins with 10 in a row. Now, there are other records, of course there are, but those are the ones I picked out for this video. Let me know if you've got any more in the comments down below. And to round things off for this random, daft, fun little video, I'm going to do some quick fire mentions, so here we go. The world has gone through some big changes since that race in China in 2019. For example, nobody knew what COVID-19 was, but it resulted in the next 4 scheduled races in Shanghai being called off and a delayed and shortened 2020 season. Michael Massey took over the role of race director following the passing of Charlie Whiting just before the first race of the 2019 season. Massey was seen as an up-and-coming race director, having done a good job as Whiting's deputy and was still in the role at China, holding it until after the, well, yeah, you know the rest. Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, Sergio Perez, Esteban Ocon, Carlos Sainz and George Russell have all gone on to become Grand Prix winners. Yes, Oscar Piastri won a sprint as well. Some of the young drivers we've seen debut were super early in their careers. Yuki Tsunoda was about to start racing in FIA Formula 3 and the Euro Formula Open Championship. Oscar Piastri had just started the 2019 Formula Renault Eurocup season, racing under a British licence, by the way. Yes, really. And Ollie Bearman, who filled in for Carlos Sainz at Jeddah in 2024, was just 13 years old at the time of the race in Shanghai and was still karting. Ollie Bearman was 13 the last time we raced in China. I was 33. Bloody hell. Worth noting, Logan Sargeant was about to start racing in F3 for the first time, and Zhou Guanyu was racing in F2 for, again, the first time. Back in 2019, cars were heavy, but not to the extent they are now. So much so that they used to have paint on them. Yes, paint. I know, right? It'll never catch on. And lastly for today, Valtteri Bottas has become an honorary Australian. He also has a mullet and a moustache now, and appears to have embraced the fact he is a bit of a walking meme. I mean, why not? Championship leader to honorary Australian, quite the turnaround and probably the biggest journey anyone's been on in F1 since 2019. That, by the way, is sarcasm. That is it for this one then. Like I said at the start of the video, just a little bit of fun today, but let me know down in the comment section if there's anything you would like to add to this. There are plenty of things that could have made the list, I'm sure. Now, I will be back soon, but in the meantime, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like, as it really does help the channel out, and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future videos or streams. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.